Howdy! This video provides an overview of key terms associated with the unit on propaganda studies and the Chicago School. In this unit, we see these terms as being important for understanding many of the contexts that are talked about, as well as the key ideas and arguments of this approach to communication media studies. Agenda setting, chain of communication, propaganda, the transmission model, and the hypodermic needle. First, the term propaganda refers to the techniques used to influence human belief and actions through manipulation of information. The term propaganda is important because it becomes the starting point of media studies in many respects. It involves social scientists, psychologists, and other individuals studying how governments were using techniques of communication and media to influence public opinion, especially related to World War I and II. This became the basis for looking at the impact of media in society and the grounding point of media studies as a field of study. Two important ideas associated especially with the Chicago School are the chain of communication and the transmission model. Both of these are associated with the theorist Lasswell, who came out of the Chicago School. His idea for the chain of communication was to define 5 components of communication that became processes, which he referred to as the transmission model. So the chain of communication refers to those key components that form the transmission model, a model that was created in order to help people study different aspects of the communication process and define the assumptions that they have about media and audience interaction. The transmission model itself is a linear communication process and use a linear graph to display it. It helped create the scientific study of media and communications, and therefore is very important for us to understand and remember this when we look at the development of this area. Finally, there's 2 theories that are associated with the propaganda studies, or especially the Chicago School. The first is the hypodermic needle theory. It's also in some places called the magic bullet theory. This is associated with the early work of Lasswell and the Chicago School. It's a linear theory based on the premise that media is manipulative and influences the passive audience. The idea is that the needle is the media, which is injected into the individual, the audience, and with its ideas, and they're directly influenced by them. This was later critiqued and then discounted by the Chicago School, but became a very important starting point. It's also important because this assumption about how the media affects society with this very direct effect is often argued in popular culture still today. Agenda setting became a theory emerging out of propaganda studies as a way to give a more nuanced response to looking at how media affects society. It was a response to propaganda studies and a theory outlining how media influences audiences. This became a transition theory that gave way to the Columbia School and media effects studies. So looking at kind of what specific actors or actions truly are influencing the media or become tools of the media for influence. This will be discussed in more details in the media and ethics unit to come.